Whoa, whoa! Daddy!
Greetings, friends! For a number of years now, we have been raising ducks. We didn't grow up raising ducks, and I didn't grow up homesteading, so I'm learning a lot of this off the cuff and from other people.
About as far from homesteading as you could.
But I'm doing it, and we're doing it, and it is really a rewarding way of life, and I'm so glad that we've embarked on this adventure a number of years ago. It's hard to believe that 7-8 years ago we lived a completely different lifestyle in the city, but now we're homesteaders, and even though there's so many rewarding things about this way of life, there's also some challenges that come along with it. And some of those challenges pushes us out of our comfort zone in so many ways, especially if we have never done a lot of things before. And in that process of being pushed, we learn a lot about ourselves as a family, as ourselves individually. We learn a lot about the animals, about the land. There's just so many different things, lessons to learn, and really important lessons to learn, I think.
Yep.
And part of the lessons that we've learned here in working with the land and working with the animals is about our property and what it's suited for. And we have a property really that is suited for ducks. We have a pond, and it really makes it suitable for having ducks. Not that you have to have a pond to raise ducks, but it does help, and our ducks really do enjoy being on the pond.
They love the pond.
Well, one of the projects I've been working on for our ducks is for them to have their own official area. With having a property that has mostly is wooded, one of the tasks that we have to do is figure out how to carve out areas for whether it be raising food or managing and working with our animals. So that's been something that I've had to do a lot of here recently. And one of the big projects that I've been working on, I've had to call out a number of trees, carve them out, so that way our ducks have a nice area for us to raise them in and for us to easily manage them. And I've almost done with that project, but I still have a little bit ways to go.
And when you mean carve out, you mean cut them down.
Yeah, I mean cutting some trees out and moving some stuff around and shaking it and making it suitable for them and for us. Well, I'm getting pretty close to having this area carved out and ready for the ducks, but I still have a little bit of ways to go. From all the trees that I've dropped, there's still a lot of brush that I've been working on burning up. However, it's taking a little bit longer than I would like for it to have. One reason is because we've gotten a lot of rain here recently, a number of days of rain, and things have just been wet.
And not only that, but it's also greenwood too, so that doesn't burn very well anyway.
Yeah, so right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to burn it, and I'm also adding some dry wood to it just to try to keep it hot, but it has been a process. I wish it was dry and it's easy to burn like it was before the rain came. I was having no problem burning that wood. I was adding stuff to it and it was getting hot and it's popping. I was like, yes, I'm making progress. It's going to be burned down in no time. And then bam, as I had this nice fire going, burning up the brush, it just poured down rain, put the fire out.
It rained on your parade.
Yeah, and I've been starting over.
Ever since.
Yeah, a couple times now. So, anyways, put some work into it, got the fire going again, and one of the things about having a fire, it puts me in this reflective mindset. I don't know if it does you or not, but it does me. I know I think it does the kids too. They're just kind of like
mesmerizing.
Just love the fire. It kind of reminds me of some people. They like to put the fireplace video on YouTube, and they just have it in the background, and just they're sitting there.
Interesting.
Creating the ambiance with the fire. But anyways, back to what I'm talking about. As I had the fire going,
isn't there a whole channel dedicated to just a fireplace?
It is actually. I've played it a couple of times, even though we have a wood stove and I'm burning fires. I don't know what it is.
He did, not me.
It's pretty neat.
What he's talking about.
But anyways, while I had the fire going outside of burning this brush, I was just thinking about our ancestors and how much they relied on fire. Woo, it's feeling warm now. Finally got this fire going the way I want it to go. It took a while. I think over an hour now or more. Just because with all the rain that we've gotten here recently, the wood has been wet. So it really has been a work. And makes me think back of when people had to live with fire, like really live with fire, having to stay warm with putting the fire outside, and just the work that they had to go through. So thankfully we have these pouches here to help out with getting this fire hotter for this brush, but it makes you appreciate fire, makes you appreciate the things you have, and makes you think back to some of the tough times that some people went through. The cedar here burns really fast on the green, but the wood takes a little bit for it to burn it up. So there were a number of really good cedar trees that I cut down, but I saved really long logs for. That way we could use them for posts or whatever. Maybe I can get a sawmill one day and start doing our own lumber. That would be really neat. But alright, so I need to get this burned up because rain's supposed to come again tomorrow. And I need to tackle these two big boys now that I've gotten a lot of area cleaned up around them. So these will be some of the, I think these will probably be the biggest trees that I've ever cut down before. So I gotta get my guts up to do it. So after getting the fire going somewhat decent, and then my time of reflection, Sayla and I got to work of carrying branches of pine up to the goats. I know one of you asked in a comment in another video, Mike, why don't you just buy a chipper? Well, I could buy a chipper if I had an unlimited budget, or a budget suitable for just buying a chipper, but I don't right now. I don't mean that in a negative way in any way. It's just, you just got to work with what you have. And there are benefits to burning up the brush and wood, that it can break down in the ash, and then you can put that right back in the garden. So we are giving back to the earth, and we are doing that. But as we were taking those pine branches up to the goats were just loving it, munching on the pine needles and the fresh green pine needles, because at this time of year there's not a lot of greenery for them to eat.
No.
We're providing them with what we can supplemental from hay and all the different feed that you feed them, but they really like to have something green. They really love that.
They do. They really love it.
So after we moved all the brush around, what we were going to take to the goats, and the rest we were taking over to the burn pile, we were doing this to clean up as well as to clear up around the areas where I was going to be working on next. And to do this, to make it safer for where I was going to be working, because this was something that was going to be pushing me. Earlier I talked about pushing yourself. Well, in this video I was pushing myself because I had these two big trees. At least for me, these are the biggest trees that I've ever had to work with, and I was going to cut them down. And I was nervous. I was scared. I was real afraid. But you know what? When I was approaching those trees, what I had in mind, I was thinking of Joel's house, and when we were at his farm at Polyface, and he just loves cutting trees. And he was just going to town cutting down these really big trees, making them look like nothing. I know he's done this for years, and he was just a piece of cake for him. But as I was having that in mind, using that inspiration to try to overcome the nervousness that I had in me, I was like, you can do it, you can do it. I was thinking of Joel. I was like, Joel could do it. I'm gonna do it like Joel. But before I got started working on these two trees, I had to come inside and get you, because I really want, it's a really good idea to have a spotter whenever you're doing projects like that, someone to make sure you're staying safe, and to watch out in case something does happen, when they can help you.
911 if something does happen, you know.
Yeah. So yeah,
good ideas to have.
So after you came outside, I filled up the chainsaw. I always do that before I get started. Fill it up with full of gas and full of bar chain oil, so I'm ready to go, ready to tackle it.
And it had been sharpened too.
It had been sharpened, and I was ready to go. I think I was pumping myself up. Sometimes you just gotta pump yourself up before you get into doing some of the things that may be too hard for you to do. I wouldn't say too hard, that you feel are hard for you to do, that stretch you out of your comfort zone in all kind of different ways. Because this was stretching me. But one tree, the first tree that I was going to tackle, is a tree that I've been wanting to take down for some time now, because this tree is what you would call a widowmaker, and it was just right there at the garden. It's a huge pine tree, and it's been dead for some time now. And I was always nervous with working in the garden and the kids running around in that area about this tree.
And when it gets windy.
And when it gets windy with just dead branches or just completely falling. So I really wanted to get this tree down ASAP. And I was like, I can do it. Tapping into my inner Joel. So started working on this tree, and the first thing I do when I'm cutting down a tree is I cut a notch in the tree. And for those of you who aren't familiar with notches, so you envision your tree like this right here, and I think like a Pac-Man. You want to cut that Pac-Man mouth right into that tree, just like that. So that's what I do.
Cut your Pac-Man.
Cut your Pac-Man mouth. Then come on the other side and then make your cut, and it should fall like that.
Should.
It should.
Being key word.
Doesn't always, but it should. There's other things that you have to watch out for, as far as if the tree's leaning a certain way, or there's more branches, or it's on a slope. So I cut my notch, my Pac-Man mouth. And then I cut it on the other side, and you know what? Still nothing?
No!
Oh.
It was still standing.
It was still standing. It didn't move. I was like wanting it to go one way, and I was like, what is going on? My adrenaline's pumping. I'm thinking, oh, I really don't want these branches that are dead to start breaking off and falling, hitting me in the head. And this tree, I don't know where it's gonna go right now exactly. So it's like, ah. Oh, so I had to sit down, catch my breath, let my adrenaline ease down, calm down, and then I just sat and thought, all right, you can do this. You can do this. Joel did it. You can do it. So after getting myself revved up again, went back at it, and I was just kind of, after looking at it, I noticed that the notch that I did, the Pac-Man mouth, it was too narrow Pac-Man mouth.
Of a Pac-Man
so it really wasn't. It was just kind of sitting there. So I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and make another notch on the other side, and it should come down. And we were noticing, I was going up and just pushing on the tree, and actually praying. It's like, help me have the faith that this tree would just fall down, and then it'd be like, tree fall down, and it would fall down.
That the wind would pick up and it
that
just
too.
fall over.
So,
I mean, really.
That didn't happen. So I think God was like, Mike, you can do this. It's gonna stretch you, stretch me, and you can do it. So I got back in there. Got back in there. I got back in there, cut a notch on the other side, and then so I did a notch on the opposite side that I made the little Pac-Man mouth on. So I made me a bigger Pac-Man mouth, and then just cut a little bit, and then the tree just gradually started going. I can hear you yelling at me in the background, it's going, it's going. And it still need to cut a little bit more, cut a little bit more, cut a little bit more, and then it started coming down. And I was like, bang!
This is not a how-to video on how to fell a dead tree, just to let you know.
No. I really don't do a lot of how-to videos. We're just sharing the journey and what we're going through here.
That's right.
So we got that tree down, and I was like, whoo. I needed a break, because I was just like breathing hard, excited. Knew I had this other tree coming up, but I was like, whoo.
He came and he got me to come spot him, and I think, oh, 20-30 minutes, no problem. Like an hour later, we're working. Yeah. We're just starting on the second tree.
Joel would have headed down in like 2 minutes, and then
yeah, and it wouldn't have been there. But, hey, please, wind, blow it over. No. Please, wind, blow it over.
Oh, but we got it down. We got it down safely, and I did have to take a break. It was kind of like this. That was holding it together right there. Just this. So once I cut through right here, then it was just that was hanging, then it fell right over. About time. To be honest with you, this tree is a little bigger than the saw that I was using. I probably should have used a bigger saw. So that was one of the things that was slowing me down, in addition to being scared. But you gotta work on conquering your fears. Bang! One of the things that I like to take a break, I'm not a Gatorade guy. We don't do Gatorade around here. It's just a bunch of junk. And one of the things that I like to drink, and the kids actually like to drink it too, is the Relight from Redmond.
Oh,
it's really good. It's actually, yeah, if you don't drink Gatorade, if you're gonna drink something, you'd be better off making your own or getting the Relight like this one. It's really good, and it will definitely rehydrate you. And it can help me when I'm going through those kind of
We
projects.
like the flavors too. We like the mixed berry the best.
Yeah.
And then they have a lemon lime and a pina colada and a watermelon.
I like berry
lime.
anything.
Yeah.
Berry, I love it.
We think the mixed berry is the best.
Yeah, berry anything. Yeah.
But it's like Gatorade. You can mix up for yourself.
Yeah.
Electrolyte, water.
Yeah, we'll leave a link in the show notes below for some Relight if you want to get some for rehydration. So get rid of the Gatorade junk. It's no good for you. Just bad. Bunch of bad junk. Well, anyways, we had tree number 2 that we had to tackle. And this tree was actually taller than the dead pine tree. I was nervous for it, not as nervous, but I was still nervous about doing it because this was the tallest tree that I've ever had to cut down by myself. So we got our setup going. We had our rope tied to it, cut my notch, did my Pac-Man mouth, and I was wanting it to fall kind of towards the pond, but at an angle to fall on the grass area. Since the other tree didn't fall the way that I wanted it to go exactly, I was hoping this one would, and I cut the Pac-Man notch in it. Then I came on the other side and cut through. And usually when you don't have to cut all the way through for it to start falling. What I've noticed in experience, somebody else could probably have a whole different experience, tell me differently, but I've noticed that it usually will just kind of start going, and I just kind of, as I'm cutting through, it just kind of gradually starts going. So I cut through for where I usually feel like I'm cut through, and it still wasn't budging either. I was like, what is going on, man?
And then we're like, come on.
So I had to take a
wind.
time out for a minute. We're asking the wind, asking God to bring the wind again, and I'm like, all right, going back in there. Trying to start my chainsaw back up. And then I can hear Sailor, Daddy! I'm like, what? And then the tree just coming down. And I was like, whoa, it's just falling. There was no wind. It came right down. I was like, whoa.
We did have a rope tied to it and had a little bit of tension on it. But even with that, at the beginning, it wasn't going anywhere. It was just standing there.
But hey, it came down, and it came down where I wanted to fall. So I was like, woo! Both these trees are done. Yes.
And Selah was at plenty of a great distance away. She was nowhere close, just to ease your mind about that one. Selah and I were way far away.
Yeah, they were. You were definitely far enough away.
Yes.
But thankfully she wasn't far enough away where I couldn't hear her, because having the gear on, it was really neat that I could. And I said, if you guys hear anything, I want you to yell, use your voice and project, yell. And she did. I heard her, and I was like, good job, Selah. So we got the 2 trees down, took a little bit of break, but the day was getting away from us, and I wanted to get the ducks in there today. Had to get them in there because rain was coming again.
It's all that stored up energy like I talked about from the last video about him being inside and he needs to go outside.
We're gonna get this done.
It's all that energy he needed to exert somewhere else.
So I went back in the area and started cutting away some of the trunks that I had left previously. And one of you asked before about why I leave the trunks when I'm cutting down the tree. At least, usually about, what, 3-4 feet is where I leave them, somewhere about there.
That.
I usually leave those, and I have left them in the past because having them up, I come through with the excavator, and it provides so much more leverage to pull the root system out with it. So that is usually why I leave the trunk the way that I have in the past. And I kind of have just gotten in the groove of doing that and wasn't really thinking about it in this area as far as how I wanted to do it. So anyways, I went through, cut those trunks off because I'm not going to use the excavator in here after all. I want to get the ducks in there as soon as possible. So got rid of those trunks. Then we just started cleaning up. I'm moving some logs around. And man, I got a workout in today, so I needed that relight. But after we got the area somewhat more suitable to bring the fence in for the ducks, we brought the fence in for them, and Selah and I made a game plan of how we were going to bring the ducks into this fence area. Selah has really become a really good duck herder. So she was helping me do that, and one of the challenges that we have is with doing this at this time of day, because the ducks usually go out to the pond. We let them out earlier in the day, so we were confusing them. So one of the things I had to be mindful of is I was going to be the spotter to not let the ducks go in the pond, as she was encouraging them to go into the fence, because they're like, what are you doing? This is not our normal time of doing this. But we got them in. All right, since we're confusing them a little bit, because this isn't the time of day that we let them out, what we're going to do is we're gonna let you guide them with the feed. Great job again for holding off the feed until now. That makes them, food is a good motivator. So I'll climb in, open up the gate, and you just guide them on this way with the feed. We'll put this down. Hopefully they'll come right through here with you. Right through here, we have a barrier here, barrier there, and then after I get done opening the gate up, I'm gonna walk around the pond to try to discourage them.
Okay.
Go on in. All right, we got most of them in. So all right, go ahead and put the fence up. We got the ducks in, and then you helped me bring in the nesting box for them to lay their eggs in. And
but Selah hadn't fed them that day, and that was good.
Yes.
We talked about she had enough forethought to think not to feed them, so make them go in there with food.
I'm so glad she did that. I actually forgot to tell her to do that, so she did a fantastic job of just thinking, hey, I need to hold off their feed so I can encourage them to go where I want to. That's a tip. Keep that tip in mind for when you're working with your animals, that use the food as a bait. We all can be baited with food. Is that what I'm gonna do with you? I always get baited with food. Well, we got the ducks in, we got the nesting box in, got their food situation set up, and the solar energizer set up for their fins. And it was pretty much a day, but I went right back to working on that brush, trying to burn it before the rain came again. So I was out there even as the sun was setting, just burning up the brush, hoping to burn as much as I could. But it was in. And while I was in there working and all that, there was poison ivy hitting me in the face, and I didn't even realize it was poison ivy until some of it had fallen down on the ground. You could see the branches. So one of the things that I like to take whenever I am working near poison ivy or know that I've come into contact with poison ivy is rust tox.
Homeopathic
and it has been really, really beneficial to me. I've gotten poison ivy really, really bad so many times, but this rust tox, the more I come into contact with poison ivy and the more I'm using it, the less it bothers me. Like, it is fantastic. So I highly recommend it. Look into it.
He used to get poison ivy just looking at it.
Yeah, I was like, keep it away.
And now you haven't had a really bad breakout in a long time.
Well, we still have a little bit more to do on the project with our ducks, and it's just going to be a number of things to do to refine the area and to make it to really just pop the way I want it, because we're trying to set up breeding systems for our ducks so that way we can kind of manage them better, and looking forward to that and producing future generations of ducks. Well, I think that about wraps it up.
But the rain's coming, so pray for me.
Because I'm going to be stuck inside again and getting stir crazy, but hey, I'll be ready to go.
Just kidding.
I'll be charging up, ready to go.
Don't be saying that I'm hating on my husband or anything.
Get back outside, husband.
Just kidding. Kinda.
Oh, well, have you guys been receiving some rain? Let me know in the comment section below, because we have, and we have again today. Well, that's it for now. As always, live strong, be strong, and whatever else I say.
Grow on.
Oh, that's right.
You hadn't said it in so long.
I haven't. Anyways, do something, get out there and do something that stretches you, that pushes you beyond your limits and helps you to grow as a person. So keep that in mind. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.